Alpine looked like they were on the way up. Obviously,
they did.
That hasn't turned out.
They did, yeah. But Alpine, I think, will, they'll look back on this and maybe they'll regret it. And then whoever finishes bottom of the F1.
But then does that become a draft system?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against
it. If you finish 20th, you lose your seat automatically.
Hello, welcome to On Track GP. It is the off season, but we still have lots to discuss. I'm joined by Matisse and Jamie, and today, guys, we are going to be looking at rookies. And to be fair, rookie season was actually unreal this year in terms of Oscar Piastri. Logan Sargeant, he's also retained his seat. Liam Lawson, a nice little debut he had there. And of course, we will also touch on Nyck de Vries. But we'll start with Piastri because I think that we can all say he was so impressive. Probably the best rookie season we might have seen from someone in maybe since Max.
Since Max, is it? Or maybe since Hamilton? I mean, Max was in a Toro Rosso, so it was difficult for him.
Max was the youngest to get points, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But then Oscar would surpass that by getting sprint
best
race.
by Oscar because of a win in rookie season. I mean, granted, it's a sprint. But yeah. I'd say best since Max, for sure. Max probably best since Hamilton.
Since Hamilton,
Yeah, he's been impressive this season. Before he even joined and started in F1, he'd won 3 consecutive junior titles. He won it with Formula Renault, Formula F3 Championship and FIA Formula 2 Championship. So he's been super successful. And I think you have to remember that there was all this like kind of hoo-ha about him. He was at Alpine. We saw it in Drive to Survive. It was very well documented, all the goings on. And of course, McLaren did win the race for him financially, I'm sure. And that switch, everyone was thinking, God, like there's now a lot of pressure on you to go and perform at McLaren, and he's had a brilliant season.
It's completely justified. With the mess after Danny Ricciardo at McLaren, they had to bring in a name that was going to toe the McLaren line a lot more, and also benefit Lando, because Lando was going to be the number 1 driver. So it's completely justified putting that much money behind a rookie driver. But also they backed him. They didn't say just play second fiddle. You can go race, which is what a rookie needs. Like, don't have too much sort of pressure in terms of how you've got to perform. Just go and perform. Yeah,
and I remember because it's not like McLaren have been good for the last few years. So leaving Alpine was like a big move. And
Alpine looked like they were on the way up. Obviously,
they did.
That hasn't turned out.
They did, yeah. But Alpine, I think, will they'll look back on this and maybe they'll regret it, because the way they handled that situation, they almost wanted everything, but they couldn't have anything at the same time. It was like, we want Alonso, but we've got this incredible, talented rookie that we're trying to keep, and you can't do both. And in the end, they did neither. They lost Alonso. He went to Aston Martin. He put podiums up at the start of the season. Yeah. And Oscar has a great end to the calendar year as well.
Alpine have sort of found themselves in a struggling middle ground with 2 drivers that a very on-off success. They'll have a great race one week where it's a track that suits them, and then they can't find that consolidatory second race. They lose their buzz immediately, have to build it back up, and they can't stop the infighting.
I think that's their biggest problem this season with Alpine, because the infighting was something I didn't actually expect. They decided to go with an all French kind of lineup,
French connection. Yeah,
and I think they kind of thought that maybe that will galvanise the team. But
great brand.
It is a great brand if you're French. And of course we are going to see changes because they've been bought out by all these famous people. There's going to be a lot of investment going on, but they were really disappointing for me. And Oscar definitely made the right decision by going to McLaren, who had a brilliant season.
We met Oscar.
Yes, we did meet Oscar.
He's a great guy. Yeah. He's fantastic. I mean, he come across quite calm, and very quiet, not shy, but just Preserved, and just he was very, I asked him, I was like, are you nervous for any of the races, because obviously you haven't raced any of these, most of these tracks. He's like, no. I was like, okay.
I think he came in with that calm attitude, and on top of that, in terms of driver partnerships, he's very complimentary in that sense. I mean, we did have a Lando blowout moment of he's won before me, and he was very emotional about that, but for the most part, they don't infight, which is a problem we've seen at Mercedes, Ferrari, Alpine, not Red Bull, because Sergio's 20 cars back.
Is that because we haven't seen McLaren at this end of the grid for a while? So they had this kind of team mentality push to we need to, as a unit, get up there. If they were to be battling for a title, I'd love to see how these personalities would suddenly,
exactly.
if they were these personalities would suddenly switch up.
It might be that whole thing of Oscar's come through and he has a win under his belt, is he going to be the primary driver?
Because I think to win a title, or to at least, and to even win races consistently, you need to be a little bit tapped.
Yeah,
And I think
so.
Max Verstappen quite literally said, give me a week and I'll be back in the simulator.
And because it doesn't ever stop, even though we're on a winter break, it doesn't stop. The development of the next car doesn't stop. You know, the driver's preparation doesn't stop. And I think that what will be important and interesting for this upcoming season is that everyone is talking about Lando moving, you know, the following year in 2025, moving to Red Bull. That's all the conversation is. So if he wants to make sure he gets that seat, he needs to have a stellar season.
Well, there is logic to it. Sergio's last season, next season, technically.
100% it's got to be.
It seems like it could be a nice conclusion to a career for me. If nothing changes, they've already got a car that is 6 months ahead of everyone else. They are the best part of 1-2 seconds a lap better than the back runners. They're 0.5 seconds faster than second place. Sergio can have a great season and sign out. And then that leaves a seat open. It's not a fight for a seat. So all Lando has to do is keep performing. He hasn't got to overperform.
Yeah.
But when does Oscar's contract run out?
Oscar,
he's been extended to 2026.
Yeah, it's with 2026. So he, the way I look at it is that
he might become the lead driver.
He's going to become. I think in my head, and we're just speculating here, but I think he'll end up being McLaren's number one driver. I think
Lando go.
Lando goes to Red Bull. I think for 2025, and then obviously that second seat. Whoever.
There's a nice trade-off there. I mean, Liam Lawson needs a seat.
Yeah. He ended the season with 1 sprint race win, 2 podiums, 2 fastest laps, and 97 points with 9th place in the championship. So as a rookie season, that is pretty good.
Huge.
Yeah.
Pretty
You've got to look at Alonso, Hamilton, Vettel, Verstappen in terms of rookie careers to compare that to, really. Like,
very good.
That's not a back runner.
All world champions.
Yeah,
precisely.
Let's move on then to Liam Lawson, because you brought him up. He finished 3rd in the 2022 Formula 2 Championship, made a mid-season appearance from the Dutch Grand Prix to replace Danny Ricciardo after he had to go away for a little bit. He finished 13th, and it was a difficult race at Zandvoort anyway. And in the Italian Grand Prix, he finished in 11th, just outside the points. He actually also knocked Max out in Q2 in Singapore. I mean, that was just a poor race, poor day for Red Bull.
That's a great day.
That's a blip track.
What a day that
It was a blip track. I actually don't like that track whatsoever.
Beautiful. No, it's a great track.
And he scored his
Sparks.
first points. He scored his first points. He finished in 9th. He deputised quite a lot for Ricciardo in Japan and Qatar as well. So this is someone
difficult tracks as well.
Really difficult tracks. This is someone that is very highly regarded and talked about a lot. We did also think maybe he would take that seat at AlphaTauri, but they've decided to give it to Danny Rick. Do you think that's the right decision to stick with Danny Rick, or would you have liked to see Liam Lawson?
I don't think Danny Ricciardo did enough this season to warrant any of it. Like, he came in, he bailed out and he got injured. That's not, by bail out, I mean he bailed out as he didn't hit a car. He bailed into the wall. That's not his fault. But if he's come back and he's only done 1 practice session and now he's injured, leave Lawson in the car. He did 5 races, then you're losing consistency again, and also you're affecting Tsunoda as well, because Tsunoda didn't have a consistent teammate. So I think personally Lawson should have kept the seat. Danny Rick's come back, he's injured straight away, back to reserve driver, recovery, give Lawson the time.
I think there's the argument that with Danny Rick, the marketing and the money that he brings in for
the fanfare.
I mean, that's obviously the reason why they decided to do it. But Liam Lawson,
pressure from Red Bull
trajectory-wise, though, Liam Lawson is only going up. And I think, if you don't lock a driver like that in, someone else will. And I think they're
he
quite.
Could be one for McLaren for 25.
I think they're quite lucky, to be honest, that the grid hasn't moved much so far. But I think 2024, 5, it could be a change.
We've also got big teams waiting in the wings. Sauber become Audi. They're going to be looking, because Bottas isn't going to be an Audi driver. That's 2 years away. So you've got middling teams that will be looking for number 1 drivers and good second drivers. And Lawson could be either of those come 2026.
Depending on the team, for sure.
We're going to see more from him, I expect, anyway, this coming season. But
he also drove well, by the way. He didn't find the wall, which is a big part of that. Like, he actually finished races, regardless of top 10 or not.
But
you
to
had
put
a
that
lot of
AlphaTauri in the
rookies.
top 10 is not easy to do at all.
Like, Tsunoda found it hard, and he was consistently in that car for 2 years previous. Whereas you sort of come in and you look at the rookies that have had their chances. Logan Sargeant and Nyck de Vries found the wall or span consistently. Whereas Lawson just did the job.
Yeah, and at
100%.
really hard tracks as well.
Yeah.
On Nyck de Vries, it wasn't a great rookie campaign.
No.
And of course that kind of led to Liam Lawson getting the chance and Danny Rick being back in the seat.
Yeah.
Did you expect more from Nyck de Vries when he came in?
Yeah, he set himself up for failure, I think.
Do you think?
Yeah, he came in saying, "Don't treat me as a rookie," and that's a big thing to say coming into Formula
Well,
One.
he was an old rookie as well.
Well,
I think
he
he's
was
28.
yeah, 28 years
For a
old.
rookie, that's
But
pretty
the
old.
thing is with him, when you come in as a 28-year-old, I always thought to myself, you're not going to get much opportunity in terms of you need to hit the ground
get
running
no
immediately.
waiting time.
No, you need to hit the ground running immediately. If you don't, you're going to get replaced. And especially when I saw Danny Rick was reserve driver at Red Bull, who we know obviously the sister team is
across both
AlphaTauri
teams as well. It wasn't like you're just reserve driver. It was like both teams get Danny Rick.
Yeah, so it's like when you've got a former race winner who's the only reason why he's really out the sport maybe is because of motivation or whatever, wants a break. But we've seen drivers come back into the sport so many times when they've taken a break. You're under so much pressure because not only is your age going against you and the fact that you're not a longevity driver, you don't have like this high ceiling, this potential that people are buying into and investing in, but you've also got a race winner just chilling in the paddock as well. So if he didn't hit the ground running, he was always going to go, regardless of whether it's fair or not fair.
I think the avenue that he joined Formula One didn't work to his advantage because it's coming from Formula E, which is essentially touring cars in Formula One. Like high contact levels, very different in terms of gimmicks of the sport and racing lines, those sort of things. I don't think it lends itself when you're a 29-year-old race driver to come into Formula One.
Yeah.
I think it works the other way. If you're sort of 31,
Going
32,
the other way, yeah, and leaving, going to Formula E,
by all means. Or if you don't sort of pass that initial rookie test at 21, 22, Formula E is a great choice.
But he is also a Formula 2 champion. So even though he did do Formula
but he went
E,
Formula 2, Formula E
back. Yeah, I see kind of what you mean. Maybe if it would have been the Formula E, yeah, I see what you mean on that. But there has to be a reason as to why it didn't work because
pressure.
Do you think that's what it is?
Massively.
Pressure.
And you see it a lot with Formula One drivers. If the pressure change in a team dynamic, Leclerc is a perfect example. Suddenly, science is putting the pressure on. The performances change in a huge way. It's the back markers though when they're driving to keep their seat. It's that pressure which is huge.
Yeah, and that can cause you to have make mistakes. Put it in the wall. All right, let's have a chat about Logan Sargeant. He came third in Formula 3 Championship in 2020, fourth in 2022's Formula 2 Championship. Yes, he drives for Williams. It was a debut season. It was quite difficult, especially in a Williams. But then you look at Alex Albon, who I guess has been driving the car a little bit longer. Yeah. And he had a good season in terms of, kind of Williams and where about they are. Do you think that's the reason that Logan Sargeant didn't have a great rookie year?
Logan gets a second chance because he shouldn't have been in the seat this year. He was bundled in too quick. So I think James Vowles is going to go here. That was your start. That's your taster.
Yeah.
Now you have to perform.
Yeah. If you don't, as we've discussed, there's so many options out there. I'm kind of surprised.
He shouldn't have been in the seat this year.
Who do you think should have been in the seat then?
You could You know what? Danny Ricciardo could have gone to that seat. To be
Williams.
perfectly honest,
They were talking about Mick Schumacher as well,
Mick
wasn't they?
Schumacher
Yeah.
is a great
Schumacher's
shout.
another one as
They
well.
probably could have taken one of the Haas drivers as well. I mean, Hulk would have done a great job in that Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are enough drivers waiting in the wings, and most of the reserve drivers. But Lawson would have been great in that.
Lawson, yeah, that's who I wanted to come in for next season. Was Lawson to come into that seat?
Do you think it's a bit strange and they've decided to stick with Logan
I think
Sargeant?
Williams, because they're a prestige team as well, like they have to be fair to their drivers. And James Vowles is well known for being fairer than most. Apart from the whole, Valtteri, it's James.
Yeah.
Apart from that, but that's not him. That's Mercedes.
Yeah.
I think no, they're being fair and they're actually trying to develop a driver.
Yeah.
Granted, that's not a good first season. At all.
No, but
And your only point comes from people getting pulled out of the points.
Correct.
Yeah.
But that was at Texas. He was promoted, yes, as we said. But that was the first American driver to score points in F1 since Michael Andretti in 1993. So we have to give him credit for that, I guess.
He wasn't part of the pilot.
No, he wasn't part of the pile-up. He did look to be getting gradually closer to Alex Albon as the season went on. So can we give him some praise?
I'm not anti Logan Sargeant.
No, next season is when I'm going to judge him, to be honest. But if he doesn't perform next season, I think he's got to lose that seat because Williams, like you said, are a prestige team. We've seen McLaren come back as at the back end of the season and improve. I think Alex Albon needs and could have a
Well,
better
Albon
partner.
could be going.
Yeah.
Well, Alex Albon's proved himself to be a very competent driver. I think again we talked about it before, but him at Red Bull, it was I think too early, you know, to throw him into a Red Bull. The pressure that comes,
Which
with
is
being
ironic because you look at Vettel and Verstappen, two of the greatest Red Bull drivers, and they were both thrown in early. It's
I think
interesting.
it's a mentality thing, and I think he looked like a rabbit in the headlights when he was at Red Bull. But he looks really comfortable in that Williams, and you know, come 25, maybe again he'll
look great in the McLaren.
But this is the problem, like Williams are too big for this. If Audi are going to come in, we're talking about Albon potentially going to McLaren or wherever, Williams should be up there as well. And if they don't get their act together soon, when these other new teams come in, it's going to be even more difficult again. They're going to maybe even continue to fall down the pecking order.
Andretti waiting in the wings as well. It's not like there's just one team waiting. You've got Porsche, you've got Andretti, you've got Chevrolet. There's a lot of teams that are waiting.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would say Williams had a far more competitive season this year than I've seen them have.
Oh yeah, for sure. They were chilling at the back of the grid before.
They're heading in the right direction, I think.
If compare them to the other back market teams where Haas did next to nothing this season with a car that just tore through their tyres. You've got Alfa Romeo that
might as well just not be there.
It's a Sauber team just with a paint job. It's really not
one of the most uninspiring F1 teams.
We always say it, we never talk about Alfa Romeo.
Yeah.
Because apart from Joe Guan Yu putting in decent performances against Bottas, there's not a lot to
discuss.
In.
There really isn't. It's like they're just waiting to be Audi, aren't they?
AlphaTauri now come under the Red Bull umbrella, so that again is another problem that Formula One's got to address. So then you've only got to get to Williams, Aston Martin, McLaren.
And
then that's your
mid-table,
yeah.
But I think that Williams and Williams fans will probably be happy with the season they had.
Considering they had their first ever point this season.
Oh yeah.
Like only 2 years ago.
Yeah, which is
crazy. Insane to think for a Williams team.
So
such
bad.
Incredibly prestige car. But I think they are heading in the right direction. Alfa Romeo's reserve driver and F2 champion Theo Pourchaire recently admitted that his disappointment of not securing a drive in F1 despite winning the title. Do you think that the champion of the F2 championship for that year should be guaranteed a spot on the grid for the following?
How old is he? Do we know?
No.
It came across petulant to me, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like
it's like I've won it. I
was
want like
super entitled, and don't get me wrong. I know Formula One drivers, you need to have that sort of bite about you, and you've got to want that motivation to be there. But that came across really petulant.
Do you not think he has a point? Do you not think he has a point though? Should there not be?
It doesn't. But
there should not be a reward for winning F.
But the thing is, he knows it doesn't work like that. Like there has to be.
Are you bringing money, or is there a seat available?
There's more to it than just your ability. There's the marketability of it. Is there an actual seat available? And at this current moment, there isn't. So
what seat was he taking?
He's Alfa Romeo.
At the start of the season, he was going to take the money from Joe Guan Yu or the experience from Valtteri Bottas.
Not going to happen.
So Alfa Romeo, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because you need Bottas to lead the team, because he's the only experienced driver in that setup.
Yeah.
And Joe Guan Yu is bringing money from sponsorship.
Yeah.
So where does he think
fit?
he was sitting there? I mean, reserve driver's fine for him.
All he's got to do is go and win it again.
Yeah.
And just continue to bide his time.
But I get your point that about a champion, should they be champion elect and therefore get a spot,
and then whoever finishes bottom of the F1.
But then does that become a draft system?
Yeah,
I wouldn't be against it.
If you finish 20th, you lose your seat automatically. So that would mean you've got Logan Sargeant that would lose his seat, or would it be one of the Haas drivers?
Well, do you know what? I'd say it makes you quite competitive. You know, there's all these people that say F1 isn't competitive anymore. And it does give a little bit of a competitive edge because it means that you have to perform. I know that a lot of it is to do with the car, but like we just said about Alfa Romeo, we barely even talk about Alfa Romeo. Yeah. They are very irrelevant, you know. So if we're talking about them and two drivers that, you know, Valtteri Bottas is an incredible driver, Joe Guan Yu's a great driver, but they're an irrelevant team. So does it not make it more interesting than having someone like Theo Pourchaire potentially come up and take a seat out of them two? Because we see drivers stay in F1 for 20 years,
more than that, yeah.
You know, which is great, you know, and there are only 20 spots in the world, which is incredible. But it's such a closed group that if you are an F1 driver, if you are a reserve driver and you've won if you won Formula 2 and you're a champion, when you have to wait so long to maybe get your chance.
So there's one of three things. Either the percentage has to change how many times rookie drivers and or reserve drivers are in the seat. and it might have to be that it either has to be the sprint races, the reserve driver gets an opportunity, or it needs to be the third driver in the team has to fulfill X amount of races, or it has to be that you swap a driver out.
I think
that's the only way that you can make those.
The sprints are good.
The driver at the bottom, I wouldn't mind being relegated. That would be pretty interesting.
Well, the thing is, it would only be the second driver, so it would be first driver or driver with the most points in the championship will maintain their spot, and then second driver will be rotated out for the third driver. X amount of time. That could work in terms of competition for seats, and also it might ease the pressure of being a reserve driver that's just thrown in if there's an injury or if the driver's not performing. So that would be a way for Pourchaire to not be quite as.
I think he's onto something. It might come across as a bit arrogant from him.
I think he's just put his blood, sweat, and tears into an F2 championship. He's won it, and he's realised that he's not even going to get rewarded.
No.
Like, in terms of he's not leveling up from that, so he'll be an F2 next season. And he's like, come on.
And that would be frustrating when you've put your whole life into racing and you just want an opportunity. But patience is a virtue.
I'd love to know how old he is though, because if he's getting on,
I reckon he's 24, 25.
We're gonna find out.
Get coiling straight on the stato
we'll
over.
Out. How old is he?
Because I think age plays a part here. I think if he's young, I think he'll be a bit more patient.
Than anyone that was on the track apart from Nyck de Vries this season?
Is he
better than Hulk or Magnussen?
I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know, but I'd be surprised if he was.
In terms of quality of driver,
those two are very sturdy.
Because I don't think he's not getting any more out of the Haas than they are.
Well, that's what I said.
This is why Logan Sargeant is maybe quite fortunate to be in that seat, because maybe that's
probably
the
replace
position
Logan
you're looking
Sargeant.
at.
He's 20. So
okay.
You got time. Come on, you got time. Chill, kiddo.
Yeah, your time will come.
Theo needs to just take a breath.
I thought you were going to tell me like 25 or 26
or something.
Yeah, time's a ticking.
I think because especially when I watch like F2, you've got a lot of names that are circulating the top of that a lot, and then you go, oh yeah, they've been around a while, and he probably has been doing that for 3-4 years.
Yeah, but he's only 20, which is
20.
insane. Let us know what you guys think at home in the comments. Do you like our idea? Should we have a draft system if you win the Formula 2? And let us know what you think. Who's been your best rookie of the season? Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Matisse. Of course, keep it locked in here with On Track GP.